Welcome to Missing the Mark, where we look for meaning in strange places. I'm Christopher. Hey, quick channel update. The two things I want to address. The first of which, I've been getting some feedback about the way all my videos lately have been extemporaneous, and so it's just that comes from me being really busy lately. Due to the nature of work and so on, winter is usually especially busy for me. So things have just been really crazy, and if I wasn't doing these, I'd be doing just about nothing. So the scripted videos will come back. My plan long term is to do a mix of scripted and unscripted videos. But when I have more time, I'll be doing more scripted videos, and that's where I'll be using my avatar, which I may go back and pay the artist to add the beard because I'm thinking I'm actually going to keep it. So that there will be that mix coming later on. When I have a little bit more time, I may do a little bit more of extemporaneous, but with some editing. For the time being, for those who enjoy this, I appreciate your patience through the imperfections that could be fixed through editing and those that could be fixed through scripting. So this is what I'm where I am sort of right now. The other thing, just in terms of time frame, I'm thinking probably in about a month, 2 months is likely when things will ease up again and I'll have more time to do stuff. Do editing, do scripting, and so on. Scripting especially, because there's the scripting, the performance, the editing, then the finding of images, the putting them together in the right sort of way. There's a lot of work that goes into scripted videos, and someone significantly more skilled than I am could probably do it faster. I've been getting better over time, and even getting better, it just takes a long time. So, anyhow, that's that. The other thing, just a sort of funny note that I wanted to share. It's not a plea to anyone, because this is one of those... It's on the subject of disagreement. And this is not a plea to anybody, because it's the sort of thing where those who would understand what I'm going to say don't need it, and those who need it aren't going to understand. But a lot of people, I've noticed, common line is something to the effect of, I don't mind if people disagree with me as long as they do it civilly. I've kind of gotten to the point, I don't really even care very much whether people disagree with me civilly. I just wish they disagree with me and not some imaginary me saying the thing in, that well, to some degree, I'm talking about straw men. But I don't like talking about the informal fallacies. But what's going on is there are a lot of people who will hear me say something, and they sort of then mentally categorize me either to their side or the other side. And then if I mention some subject and I'm not on their side, they then assume I've said the only thing they're aware the other side is capable of saying. This is somewhat understandable. A really good example of this, actually, was something my wife had pointed out about a song that was in mixed French and English. And this is actually in relation to what it's like for children to listen to adults speaking, because, a child, and I'm talking, like 3, 4, 5 years old, they have a vocabulary of maybe a few hundred words. Adults use a vocabulary of many thousands of words, and, in complex sentences where they don't know where most of the words are. And so it's probably a lot like listening to this song where, especially for me where I don't speak any French, this song where like, they're intermixing French and English, like, even in the same sentence. And so it's really weird because you can pick up pieces. There's enough sort of structure, words, and so on. You can get little bits and pieces and guess at what the thing means. And that's the only thing, within a short time frame, that's the only thing you can do. Similarly for children, again, 3, 4, something that range. The only thing they have a very hard time understanding you, and they can't constantly just sit there asking, what does that word mean? What does that word mean? There's this word, I don't even remember what it sounds like. What did that mean? They don't have the memory for it. It would take forever to get anything done. And there's just, they're also, little children are incredibly practical creatures too, and, want things, etc. And just need to interact, and then get that interaction over with so they can get to what they want. So, they pick out little bits and pieces and then do the best they can to guess at what you actually meant. And, for these people who are neither well-educated nor particularly bright, somebody on the, say, bottom 40%, bottom 30%, something like that, of the population in terms of intelligence, that's a lot of people, and also who are poorly educated, so virtually all Americans, for example. But a lot of other English-speaking countries have people who clearly may have been schooled but did not get much in the way of education. And so these sort of people, I mean, obviously, I think I'm not saying anything shocking by saying that I use a pretty broad vocabulary. I make reference to a lot of things that are, in passing that are not necessarily common. I don't do this on purpose. It's just so natural. I can't help it, even when I'm trying. And this, by the way, in general, on this channel, is me trying to be more intelligible. I do so even more amongst friends who I know will understand everything I'm saying. So the point being that, there's just something of a mismatch there. And a lot of what I say will be hard for them to understand. I mean, they don't think I'm right, so there's no point in spending a lot of time trying to figure out what I'm saying. There are lots of words they're unfamiliar with, and it's not worth the time to go look up, because after all, it's not like they're going to find some truth by looking up what these words mean to figure out my meaning, because after all, I'm on team wrong. And so, they make their best guess, and that mostly means sort of pattern matching the things I said to the things they know that Team Wrong does say. Now, especially, I'm Christian and Catholic, so I come from I come especially from the scholastic tradition, having studied Aquinas and a lot of people who studied Aquinas and so on. And that's very, very different than, say, a fundamentalist, like a young earth creationist, for example. We have very little actually in common. But, we're all on Team Wrong, and those are often the people with which the sort of people I'm talking about are familiar. So they sort of pattern match me as close as they can to that, and end up saying things that I actually specifically disclaimed fairly often. So, I mean, it's sort of understandable given the limitations of, time and energy and so on that these people are working with. But in any event, I do get a lot of that where, like I had some video recently where, what was it? I think when I was talking about the burden of proof, where I disclaimed the idea of a burden of proof and that all people have a duty to try to investigate and find out what's true. And I specifically... I was very clear. I was not that this does not mean that you have to accept everything that anybody says, because people say things that are wrong all the time. That's practically a direct quote from my video. And I got someone in the comments accusing me of saying you have to believe everything that anyone says. I would just like comments that had to do with me. If you want to call me an idiot or any collection of colorful names because I think people should actually get off their butts and do some research rather than, only, accepting things that they're proved for, fine. You want to tell me life's limited, nobody's got the time to do all this, there isn't that much to find out anyway, fine. That at least contradicts what I said. If you want to tell me that I'm a complete moron because, in fact, human beings do owe a duty of proving everything they know to everyone around them, fine, that's a contradiction to what I said. But when somebody tells me that I was basically saying that you have to believe everything that anyone said, when I actually said that does not mean you have to believe everything anyone said, this gets a little bit frustrating. I mean, not very, because, the 38th time, the 217th time, etc., that you see this sort of thing, and whatever. It's a little bit like it being cold outside or it being raining. The world's full of inconveniences. It's an imperfect world. You just deal with it. At least, when you're not a teenager. Or younger. But all the same, yeah, I just find it almost amusing that to me, the lines like, I don't mind if people disagree with me as long as they do it civilly, seem like this starry-eyed idealism. Go ahead, call me a fucking moron if you want. Just do it because of something I said. That's all. Now, as I'm saying, this isn't actually addressed to anybody watching this video because, as previously mentioned, those who understand don't need it, and those who need it won't understand. I'm just sharing this because I find this funny, because this is something... It just comes up all the time where it's that had nothing to do with what I said. That was the opposite of what I said. And yeah, we're members of a very funny species. And I just like to take it as further proof that God has a sense of humor, because we live in a ridiculous world. So Until next time, may you hit everything you aim at.